The information shared in this episode is for informational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult your physician or qualified healthcare provider with any questions you have regarding a medical condition. Hey y'all, it's your girl Booney, and you're listening to the Booney Breakdown Podcast, your source for all things responsible and ratchet. All right. Welcome to this week's episode, guys. First, let me just apologize. My voice may sound different because the pollen and the allergies are beating my ass, okay? So that is why there was no episode last week because, one, I didn't have a voice. So this is better than it was last week. All right, so let's just dive right into it. If you recall back, I did a solo episode and I did an all call for people who may have wanted to share their story because in episode, I believe that was 262 or 263, I shared that I had a hysterectomy. And I'd asked if there was anyone else out there who had this, who wanted to come on and share their experience. And here our guest is today. She is amazing. We had been following each other on social already, but this is Melissa from Fab Glance. You may have seen her videos around on the internet because she is a blogger and social media influencer, and she opens up and shares her experience about her women's health issues and why she too chose to have a hysterectomy. So this is a really good conversation, even for the men who listen. I really do think that this is an episode that you should listen to too, because you don't really understand the plight that women have to go to and go through with their health and choices and advocating for ourselves when it comes to women's health and reproductive health issues. Not only about hysterectomies, he talked about just what it means to really have that, accept that you would not birth children, processing the grief around not birthing children, and enjoying the spoils of having a child-free lifestyle. So you want to stick around for this conversation. All right, so this week we have a drag of the week. No pick of the week, a drag of the week. What I am tired of is just clickbait. I'm tired of it on all fronts. I'm tired of it in the regards of people who are posting these clips because they just want to get engagement and make money off of rage. I am tired of the people on Threads and Blue Sky. I haven't even been on Blue Sky that much, but more so on Threads. I'm tired of those people who post something knowing that it's going to incite a reaction. I'm tired of us now. We've had the internet now for decades. And I just think we should be nuanced enough where, and I fall victim to it too. You guys saw, I just shared a post last week in my story with some asshole on a podcast sharing something, and I just was fed up. I could not take it. But I'm just like, why are we still this deprived that you have to type something, make a video just to get the outreach and to make money off of the outreach? Like, I'm just really fed up with it. Like, I think someone put on Threads, like, unpopular opinion, Rumi shouldn't be on the Cowboy Carter tour. Why? You knew what you were doing when you put that on Beyonce's internet. Like, you knew what you were doing. I'm just over all of the clickbait. And there's so much out there. It could be anything from stuff like Beyonce to politics. I mean, it's just enough. Like, enough is enough. I'm over it. And I get mad at myself when I fall victim to it, like when I get wrapped up into it. But we just got to chill. So, like, don't engage, guys, because the more you engage, that shows somebody else like, oh, they posted that asinine comment and look how many likes they got, so I'm going to do the same thing. It's up to us. Stop. Cut it out. All right? Thanks.
Housekeeping. Come back later, please. Housekeeping. Not now.
All right. So in the last episode we did 266 with Smitty. Teachers are people too. Who knew the teachers was fucking like that? I got a lot of comments from some teachers who like, yeah, she wasn't lying. That's how I be hooking up. You schedule a parent-teacher conference with, little Bobby Joe's father, and you make the connection, and that's how it goes. So who knew? I learned a lot, but it was a lot of comments. I got this one that says, yeah, Smitty not lying, girl. That's how I met my boyfriend. His son was in my third grade class 4 years ago. We still rocking and rolling ever since that parent teacher conference. So there you go. There you go. If you haven't checked out that episode, run it back. 266 with Smitty. All right. Again, I already thanked you guys for flexibility with my voice. Apologies, the allergies. I didn't want to go another week, but this voice is not my normal voice, but it is better than what it was last week. But I also want to thank you for the flexibility. I put the caveat out here. Life is life in tremendous ways. And I did not want to delay season 14 anymore. So I've been fairly consistent. I did have to skip 2 weeks, but I just, again, Ratcheteer Gang, you guys are the best. So thank you for the flexibility, and just sticking with me, but what will make it worthwhile for you all is that we do have a Booney live shortlist. Yes, yes. So you guys know I'm always going to do a show in Baltimore because that's the hometown. So right now the shortlist is looking like Chicago, Houston, Atlanta, Philly, New York, and New Orleans. I am not going to all of those places because I can't afford that now. If y'all want to travel around and tell all your friends in those places, but I mean, let me know which one should I go to. I'm leaning towards a few. I know there's a little drum up for Nashville. I just don't know that I have an audience for Nashville. But yeah, and here's the thing. You want me to get these audiences and come to more cities, then you could do your part and share it and spread the word and tell a friend in your neighborhood to listen to the podcast, because I do look at my stats. And I'll be honest, my stats for season 14 haven't been that great. I don't have anything to hide. Not what they used to be. I know I took a long hiatus, so it could be some on me. But yeah, so build it back up. I can come to more places, but I do love doing the live shows. I'm going to commit to at least doing 2. So it'll be Baltimore and one other one. If the ticket sales are good, understanding the economy right now as well, then maybe we can add in a third. But you guys let me know. Advocate for your city. All right. And if this is your first time listening, welcome. I appreciate you for checking us out. And you can follow us on social media. We're on Threads at The Boonie Breakdown. We're on Instagram at The Boonie Breakdown. Over on Facebook too, but I don't really do much over there. I'm really on Instagram now. It's becoming too much to manage so many of these social media platforms for myself. Okay. All right. So that's it for me. And let's get ready to break it down. All right, y'all. This is a special one because I don't think we've actually met.
No.
Quote unquote. But we follow each other on Instagram and I love her content. So I'm welcoming Melissa to the podcast. Hey, girl.
Hello.
How are
I'm so
you?
excited to be here.
Yes, I'm excited to have you. So how this happened, guys, is, I did my little episode and I asked people if they would be interested in coming on to talk about their journey, if they had a hysterectomy. And Melissa was like, I'm open book, let's go. So I sat on it for a while just because I think I had to be comfortable in what was happening to me before I felt open to share. So I
Yeah.
had my hysterectomy in February of 2023. When did you have yours?
I had my hysterectomy March of 2022. So I just passed my hysterectomy anniversary about, I think, 2 weeks ago. I look at the Facebook, reminds you. So I was like, oh, this is the time. So yeah, it's been 3 years. So
that's how I know I'm getting old too, because people will say something. And I was like, no, I know that was here. I go to the iPhone photos thing and I scroll. I'd be like, no, I think it was 2019. And I'd be like 29, yeah.
Yes. The receipts exist. I'm like, the receipts exist.
Definitely do. So for me, I didn't go into a lot of the details, and I already did my medical disclaimer, guys. This is not medical advice. But for me, I was having very heavy menstrual cycles, and it started kind of after I did several birth controls. I'd done the pill. I did several different types of the pill, ortho tricycline low. My body does not like hormonal birth control. Can say that blanketly.
Yeah.
Then I did Depo.
Oh, wow.
great because I didn't have a period for years, but it packed on the pounds. And I'm already a fat girl. So to get more weight that was not
Like,
budging,
that's not in the program. That's not what we wanted.
yeah, like that was unnecessary. But I was like, Doc, I told my doc, I can't gain any more weight. And I'm like, this is me as a fat girl. Like, we gotta
Mhm.
stop Depo. And then my period was unlike anything it had ever been. I was 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, 2 weeks on my cycle, 2 weeks off, and like a heavy period. Okay.
Yeah.
Thankfully for
Yeah.
me, I never had pain. I never had cramps, but no one could figure out why I was having a heavy period. It just kept going. It never stopped.
Yeah.
It never
Yeah.
stopped.
That's wild. Mine was a little different. Like, so many people have like this more of a mine was more of we mistakenly found out. So I
Okay.
went to the doctors for something totally different. I went to
Okay.
the doctors for so I have diverticulitis, but it's kind of like IBS's feral cousin. And I was like, my stomach is hurting all the time, blah blah blah. So they're like, okay, well, we'll send you in for like a ultrasound to just like check out your insides. Let's see what's going on. We don't know what's happening. During the ultrasound, the lady's like, "Oh, and there goes your fibroid." And I was like, "What?" You know what I'm saying? Wait a minute. And so, she was like, "Yeah, you have a fibroid here and a fibroid here." But that's not what we're looking at. We're looking at XYZ. And I was just like,
That's
"Okay."
crazy.
So she was like, "Well, if you're concerned about your fibroid, go to your gyno and let them check it out." She's like, "Sometimes they could just be in there and they just be doing their thing." The thing that alerted me, I mean, that alerted me, but also like my mom had a hysterectomy, my grandmother had a hysterectomy, my aunt had a hysterectomy. So I was like, okay, I need to be well aware of what's going on with my body. And then like literally it was like once it was like hide and seek. Once we found it, it was like, oh hey girl, I'm here. And literally from that moment, it started to wreak havoc on my body. So from that before that moment, nothing. Periods were fine, nothing. The only thing I could say what might have been an indicator of something going on was that I was having some hair loss. And I was like, but I thought it was like the stomach issue situation. We didn't know, you know what I'm saying? So I tell everyone, like, if there's hair loss that you're experiencing, there's an indicator
It's something
going on.
happening. So
Something's
let's
going on.
that's the thing they didn't tell you. So for me, it was a change of doctor. I
Mm.
I was tired of, and this is probably another issue we could talk about, but I was tired as a fat girl of going to the doctor and voicing a concern about something and just being told lose weight. And
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not going to happen overnight. And I've always been big and I'm still have a problem though. So I switched doctors in the pandemic and I
Mhm.
was like, I need a different doctor. I go to this doctor, physical A1, first doctor who never told me in my entire life lose weight.
Yeah.
She was like, wow, your number, like, you're great. Like, your numbers are great. And then she was like, whoa, wait. And she told me,
Got something going on here.
yeah,
Yeah.
she's like, "Has anybody ever told you you're direly anemic?" And I said, "No,
And see,
never,
I
never."
was I wasn't anemic or anything. Like, it was so wild to me because once started telling people, you get I hate to say, you get the whole types of being like, drink juices and berries.
Mhm.
It'll fall out in the middle of the night. You get, I'm like, no, like I'm trying to tell you, I know it was in there and now I know. So it's like, I guess that would be like 2020, like before the pandemic, right? So they were
No,
like, let's get on birth control. The thing about me that I like to indicate for a lot of women is that I was celibate. So I had no like pregnancy scares, no, like none of those things were happening for me to be like, let me kind of like be at the doctor
something's
like that. I
wrong.
was just
Yeah.
like, go for my yearly, call it a great day. They do what they need to do, and I'm good. So I hadn't really had to take like birth control and all this other kind of stuff because I wasn't really doing anything. So they started that whole process, and I was just like, okay, this is interesting. Like I never had took birth control before. Mind you, I'm dealing with the tumors and then also the stomach issues. So I'm trying to deal with 2 lower abdominal issues at the same time and trying to figure out, like, what's hurting today? Is it the fibroid? Is it the intestines, But that fibroid, the main one, grew to the size of a football. And the other one, yep, and the other one grew to the size of a golf ball. Another indicator, I think this is like a theme for this podcast, is that I'm a big girl too, and I'm pear shaped. So whereas a smaller girl, if her fibroid was growing, she probably would look
They'll see it, a bulge. Yep.
it didn't look different. Nothing looked different. The only time I knew it was getting bigger is when I laid on my stomach. I felt like pressure.
Something.
Yeah, and so I was like, okay, it's getting bigger. The stress of the pandemic is what took my hormones into overdrive. My body was like, I don't know what's happening. I don't know why we nervous. I don't know why we was on. And that's when bleeding started. So I probably managed having a fibroid for like 2.5 years just through like birth control and all that. My periods got a little bit longer, but I was like, it's a fibroid down there. It wasn't anything that I was just like, oh, I just gotta get something done. But when the pandemic came, I bled for 6 months straight.
Wow.
And they finished the birth control. We did the pill that like stops your period altogether. And they talked about ablations. They talked about blah, blah, blah. And so finally my doctor, who I love this lady, she's very straightforward. A lot of people like, she don't got no bedside. No. My girl's like, well, look, here go your options. Bow and bow. I'm gonna do everything to keep you safe. I'll do everything to give you a choice. And so she was like, so you're 40 and like, do you want to have kids? She's like, because if you don't want to have kids, oh wait, let me back it up. I found out I had fibroids, got fibroid removal, found out I had stomach issue, found out I had new fibroids. That was the thing, because we had already did a fibroid removal surgery.
And they do say that they can come back. So
And
I know that is one of
yeah,
the things they tell you, that you can go through the removal, but they will come back. And so to me, very similar. I did not see anything like when I said I had all types of imaging done, because they're trying to find, why are you
yes,
bleeding like this? I
yes,
had ultrasounds, nothing showed anything. It was a polyp once, and my friends joke, they're like, you a G. Cause like my gynecologist, she's in there and she's like, she goes in with the camera. Now, first of all, this experience, if no one's ever had this done, they
yeah,
fill you up with like water. Like they squirt water in you. And it's like cold. It feels like weird because it feels like reverse pee. But they fill you up with water. And then she goes in
yeah,
with the camera. And then the camera, she's looking at it. It looks like the size of an iPhone with like a scope. And she's in there like,
yeah.
oh, yeah, I see like a tiny pile up. She's like, we can schedule to get it removed. And I'm like, well, you're in there. Can you just do it? And she's like, well, I mean, if you schedule it, I can put you like under. I'm like, girl, get that out of there. So I didn't go under.
So you had her do it in the office?
Yeah.
Okay, you are a G, because I would have been like, let me have a moment to like get my things together.
No, I was
So
like, you in there? Like, she's like, okay. And she's like, okay, you're gonna feel a pinch, right? And I felt it but it wasn't like, like it was just like,
yeah,
okay. And then she puts the specimen in the little thing and she's like, you
mm-hmm.
want to see it? And I'm like, yeah, because I'm thinking it's gonna be, if it was the size of the tip of this nail, it's being generous. And I said, this is what's causing me to bleed like that? She was like, it could be, but she's like, I didn't see anything.
And
Okay.
that's the craziest thing about like female issues, is that it's still a organ that people are still researching and trying to understand. And so when women are like, I'm like, if you don't feel comfortable, change doctors, because
Yes.
everybody don't know what's going on there. And I was very adamant about finding a woman doctor. I was
Me
like, I don't
too.
need no dudes up
Well,
here.
and the funny thing about that though is I did all that. Now here's the funny thing from that procedure.
Mm-hmm.
I've never birthed children, so I can never say my water broke. But when she's preparing to leave, she puts all these puppy pads, and they're not puppy pads, but the little
Mm-hmm.
folding things
Yeah.
down on the floor. And I'm like, well, what are you doing?
She's
And she's
like,
like, "Oh,
your
all the
water's about to
water's
break.
gonna come out when you stand up." So it was the first time I could say, like, it felt like my water broke. I was like, "Is that what it
Yeah.
feels like?" Weird. But it's funny you say that because when it came time to make the decision to have the hysterectomy,
Mm-hmm.
my gynecologist who I loved, I and she was a woman, Black woman. I had to go get other opinions because her and I went toe to toe. Because she was only
Okay.
trying to push the IUD. And I was done. Like, I'm not doing any more birth control. I don't want an IUD. I'm not doing this. And so I went and got a second opinion. I went to another woman.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing, pushing IUD. Like, you could get an ablation, but you don't have kids, so you don't want to do that. And I'm like, but I mean, at the time, I'm 37. So I'm like,
Yeah.
my age to shut the factory down was 38 anyway. So I'm like, yeah.
My agent shut the factory down was 40 and out because I had a lot of friends who, oh, God, But here's the thing, as I like walking through this journey, I had to really assess myself and be like, have you ever wanted to have kids? And the thing was, I work with kids. I work in youth development that's my day job is I work in youth development. So I'm always around kids. I never wanted to birth children. And I was very strong about when I sat down and really thought about it, I was like, I can have kids in my life forever. I don't want to get pregnant. I am not interested. It does not look fun.
Not at
Um,
all.
no one
Nothing about pregnancy or giving birth. And I've watched a live birth. I was fortunate enough. I'm glad I saw it. And it wasn't a traumatic birth.
hmm,
But I just saw this and like, I don't want any parts of this. I don't want to be pregnant. And I was the same way, very, very convinced about
yeah.
that. But what I will say is that I still went through some grief about it, which I
Yes.
was not prepared for. Now,
Yes.
what I will say though, leading up to it, it solidified that I didn't want children
Yeah.
per se. Now, let's say if I meet somebody who's married and have kids, that's a different story. But
Yes.
I was resolved about not birthing children because they were like, so I leave the two women doctors and I ended up getting my hysterectomy by a man because he was the
Okay.
first person who presented to me options. He said, "You don't have a lot. You got a few. You don't have a
Yeah.
lot." And he mentioned it, and he knew my family history. I have a family history of gynecological cancers. So he's like, I said, "Well, if I was your daughter, what would you recommend?" He
Mm-hmm.
said, "Because I know your family history, I would get the hysterectomy." And I said, "Okay, go get my pap smear." That was in October. Go get my pap smear the next month. It comes back abnormal. I'm like, here we go again. I got to get another biopsy. I'm like, I'm done getting a hysterectomy.
Like
Do it.
let's I
And
literally
in
like that was
yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
mhm. No, I was gonna say that was the other thing that made me push forward. Like when my doctor gave me my fibroid surgery, and I remember like we were just talking about like remembering when things happened. This was the same weekend that Trayvon Martin passed away. So I remember healing and watching CNN. And after she came to see me after the surgery, she was like, I don't want to have to cut your uterus again. That's what she said. She was like, "Because continuously cutting the uterus can cause you to have other issues." She's like, "But we wanna heal through this. We're gonna, see what happens, but I definitely don't wanna do this again." And literally, when I went back for my 6 months checkup, she found a fibroid that was the size of a pea, and we were back
Wow.
on the roller coaster again. So it is so important to get somebody who's on your level, and that grief about having kids that
Which
like, my thing was it was, like, up into the surgery, like, I was like, "Cool," "Gut me like an avocado, get this thing out of me," you know what I'm saying? And it was, like, a week into my healing and really kinda, like, being like, "Wow, so I don't even have the option no more, like, that's wild," and it was, like, kinda coming on me, and then it was what else was coming on me was, like, telling my story to some man. Now, why am I centering a man? I don't know, but
listen, okay, I feel so seen because that was my grief. Leading up to the surgery, they wanted me to do all these things. Why don't you check
Mhm.
your egg count? Do you want to
Yeah,
freeze your eggs? And I was like, I started, it was like, okay, maybe just to have, you never know. But that's not looking at the
yeah,
cost. And I said, nope, I don't want a child that bad to invest this kind of money. I'm okay. Yank
Yeah.
that bitch out. Now, I had to go to therapy about this because
Mm,
where my grief was centered, and it kind of bothered me, but I got it, was that I was dreading having the conversation with men because I am single. And so as I'm
yes.
dating, saying if I meet some great man, because there's so many out
Mhm.
there are,
Right.
that I was gonna have to say and make myself vulnerable to rejection to be like, I can't birth children. And that killed me more than any decision about the whole process. And my therapist had to tell me, like, okay, it's not your decision though. Like, you have to
Right.
release that, right? Because
Yep.
whoever you're encountering has the right to say, I want to have biological children.
Yes.
And you're saying you can't give that, or if you do, it's gonna cost a lot of money because they're going to have to take the eggs and put it in a
Yeah.
surrogate. And I'm
And, like,
like,
do we wanna go through all that? And also, do we have the means to go through all that and then take care of a child up into adulthood? Like, that's a lot. For me, I was like, I dealt with the other part of being like, you're already plus size, so there's a little strike on your scorecard. Now you're gonna go back into this dating game, being like, "Oh, I can't have kids either." Not like "Oh, I don't want to." No, 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 I cannot. There, so is and men,
they're
they don't.
simple.
They're very simple. So they automatically be like, "Is there some?" Let's say some. Well,
Yes.
is there something's wrong? Well, what's wrong? What's wrong? And it's like, no, a choice was made so that I could be safe, healthy, have a long life. And as I started to resolve the whole thing, was like, takes a village. I'm a village member. I
Mhm.
have godchildren. I have little cousins. I have my friends have kids. And I'm so happy to be able to have time with them and then give them back. 'Cause I was like, I was like, I don't even if I'm married, I don't wanna do it.
Yeah,
Like,
I've
get somebody
never
else to do it.
had that burning desire to be a mother. I've never wanted to hear someone call me ma. I'm sure I would probably be a great mother. I would think, I would hope, but I just never had that desire. And so it was really fucking me up to the point where I was like, did I make the right choice?
Mhm.
Because the thought of not being able to was bothering, or vocalizing that was bothering me more than I thought it would have. It
Yes.
really bothered me a lot, and
And go
I just
ahead.
was not prepared for that
Yeah.
emotional piece about it, to be
I
like,
like I shed some thug tears. I remember because, like, when you're healing after your hysterectomy, you're up. You be up at night, like, because 'cause you've been home all day. So it's like, there's nothing. I was kinda laying there and being like, "Oh, I'm never gonna," and I was like, "Let's just walk through it. Let's just go ahead and walk through the forest and, like, let's walk through it." And, I think the other thing was, like, my family. Like, I've worked with kids since I was, like, 14, started as a summer camp
okay.
counselor. I love it. When I walk into if it's an event, a barbecue, I'm beelining to the kids, like, "How are you guys? What are you guys doing?" Like, I'm a kid person, so I know I would be an amazing mom. But like I said, didn't ever want to give birth, didn't want to see my body change. I do not care. And so hearing my mom and my aunts being like, "Oh, so it's just like never gonna happen for you." Whoa, wait a minute now. Hold on a second. I can still adopt if I really wanted to have a kid. Like, there's a lot of
That's
kids.
what I said too, and it's so funny people don't think about those as means of parenthood, right? Because I said the
Yeah.
same thing. I said, if I wake up at 47, like, "Fuck, I really botched that one." I could be a foster parent, I could adopt a child. There's ways to become a mother without birthing a child, but people do not, their brains don't immediately go there. So,
And you find out how selfish people are with your life, like what they are projecting onto you, what success, like for my mom, it was like, I'm a successful parent if my kids have
yeah,
grandkids, my kids have this. And I was like, oh, girl, like we also need to go to therapy about that because you're a successful person for you. Whatever your
yeah.
kids are doing, that's a whole different thing. So, yeah, that not being able to have kids a little different, but I walked through it. And now at this time, like 3 years out, I'm like, yeah, no, it was the best decision I could have ever made in my entire life. Like,
Same. And I think it made me realize how many people base the value of a woman on motherhood. And for me too, like the little snide comments people make, like, my life has meaning, or you're not busy. You don't know how busy I am. Well, I got shit going on too. I just don't have no child, right?
yeah.
So, and not
You
commitment.
don't
It's
know
hard.
you don't know what tired is. Yes, I do. Like,
Yes, I
don't
do.
talk
I
to
was
me,
hemorrhaging every fucking month. I know what
man.
fucking tired is.
I know what tired is. And so I'm like, I had to resolve and be like, one, we're gonna reposition those type of people in my life, get you out of here. Position the people who are supportive and are like, we love you, Melissa, not what you can produce, type of
I
thing.
love that.
And even the decisions to share my journey, because I'm a blogger, content creator, whatever they're calling us these days. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna share my week by week like healing journey. And in that week by week share, I did a whole post on I went old school, like writing it out like 400 words on the not having a child, and on the romantic side of things, like, because also telling the man past the I can't have kids. Men don't know female anatomy, so you say you have a hysterectomy, they think you don't have a vagina. It's a whole like,
Yeah.
what are we, sir? What's happening
So
with this
let's
conversation?
talk about this part, okay? Because there are so many great things about having a hysterectomy too, and the obvious
Mhm.
is I don't have to buy tampons and pads and bleed anymore. That's fucking amazing. The freedom of not
Listen,
having a period is life changing, okay?
Imma tell
Especially
you
after
this,
bleeding
I
since
can tell.
11.
Yes, I tell people all the time, I have extensive knowledge on every type of period product you could ever imagine. I be in that 6 months of bleeding, cup, panties, this pad, natural pad, that pad, tampon, this type of tampon, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So I was so happy to pair my things up and take it to the women's shelter. Here you go. Here's
Oh
some
my God. I did
because
the same thing because I was like, I had a 6 month
yeah,
supply because I was going through so much in a cycle. I always had a
me,
stockpile.
Amazon.
Yes.
Yes. And then, like, at
I
one point, my favorite tampon was discontinued. There, I was like, "This is not right." Like,
devastation. Devastation. Okay. But
yes,
you mentioned
back to
about
the men.
the men, right? Not knowing the anatomy. Now, I will say this. My healing was fairly easy. I was up walking the same day as my surgery.
Same.
No pain, no swelling. But my 6 week checkup, I go to the doctor
Mhm.
and he's like, okay, this checkup, I'm going to examine. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And he put them fingers in me. And I said, wait a minute.
Like, "Hey,
Because
hey, friend."
my joke, my friends will know, my joke was new pussy, who this? I'm a virgin. Like that was my joke. But baby girl, he
Your
put them
body said,
two
"Oh, we
little
a virgin?"
fingers in, and I said, wait a minute. So he goes like this.
Mhm.
Is that pain? I'm like, well, it's not pain, but I'm really aware that your fingers are
Yeah.
there. And he's like,
Yeah.
okay. He's like, yeah, I'm just testing the cuff, just testing the cuff.
Mhm.
Made a mental note. He keeps going. Okay, you got 6 weeks. It looks good. Just go slow with everything. And he goes, I mean
Yeah.
everything. You can have sex, but go slow. I said, okay,
Yeah.
got it. But I got a question though. I've had a vagina
My
for
whole life.
38 years and I ain't never heard the cuff. What the fuck is that?
Yeah.
So he explains what a cuff is. So essentially,
Mhm.
I had I have my tube, cervix, and uterus all removed. So I still have my
Mhm.
ovaries. And so for the cuff, for people listening, you haven't had a hysterectomy, they just take the tissue and build a barrier because I don't have a cervix anymore. So
That listen, funny story. Cause I'm like, show it to me right now. So before I had my surgery, I went on YouTube. I said, I want to see what's going on in the body. So I watched like the live hysterectomy with the real, not an animation. I want to see what y'all doing. That's the type of person I am. And anytime I
no
get a
thanks.
procedure, I would need to know cause you about to put me to sleep and I need to know what's happening. So anyway, Yes, when you get I got a partial hysterectomy similar to you. My ovaries are still with me, so that I don't go into immediate menopause. Thank you,
Menopause.
Jesus. But I was like, wait a minute. So wait, how long how long is the birth canal? How long? Like, I'm like, I don't even know what if I meet like the mandingo of my dreams? Will we be able to like get it in? And my doctor was like, ma'am, first of all, average men. She was like, black, white, whatever. You're gonna be able, you'll be fine. And I was like, but what if, girl, like I might, get a blessing with
These
my
are
name on it.
questions that need answers, okay?
Yes. And so she explained the same thing, and she was like, also, everything is very elastic down there. It is a muscle. It will move. It will shape. It still does the same. She's like, the part that we're removing is not the part that you're asking me about right now. And I was like, oh, and so even understanding like your ovaries are not connected, like the way you see the
The
anatomy of
picture is bullshit.
is
The picture
stupid, and
we
they need
see
to
is
stop.
bullshit.
Yeah, and she had a 3D, and so I was like, how my ovaries gonna work without my uterus?" Like, I was in there sounding very, very silly, and she was like, "Okay," she sat down very patiently, and she showed me, and I was like, "Didn't nobody tell me nothing." I did not know that these are different departments of a factory, and they could exist when one is closed
Yeah.
down. Didn't know
I
that.
asked very similar questions. And I appreciate my doctor spending the time, and he was like, I have done hundreds, if not thousands of these surgeries. And he goes,
Mhm.
you will be surprised. Some women have not even asked me one question. And he goes, nearly not as many as you. And I was like, really? He goes, some of them, they just are. I was like, I need to know. Like, it still need to work down there. Now,
I need to know.
I need
Yes.
to know. Now, those 2 fingers I was real aware, so in my mind, I said, "Imma give myself 4 more weeks before
Mhm.
I let something that's not 2 fingers in there."
Yes.
And, yeah, the joke was on me. I was a virgin again because that shit hurt like I was losing my virginity.
See, I waited way longer because I was like, I was still in the pandemic. It was in there, and I had still a bunch of stuff going on. Also, I was like, this is new. Okay, this is a new lady. I'm a new lady. I can't just have anybody up and through. Okay, you have to be vetted for this new reupholster
It's
situation.
reupholstered. Now, one of the benefits, talking about the pic now for me, myself, um that thing juicier than it was before. I don't know what reupholstering happened.
I read this older lady when I shared about it. She gave me this book, and she was like, I had a hysterectomy back in the 80s. I was like, "Ooh, girl, they did it with a knife." And so she was like, but she's like, this book is very helpful to me. So I read the book, and they talked about the changes you could have, the pros and the cons, and like it just seemed like to me all the white women was dry because it
Yeah,
seemed like all the
I
black
was
ladies in the book. Right?
that was one of my concerns that I was gonna be dried up, gonna have to be using the lube and stuff.
Mhm.
Not the case. And I had to change gynecologists, and I
Mhm.
went to not by any choice of my own. I mean, me and my one who I told her I came back, it's like, girl, I'm getting this
Yeah.
thing yanked out. I know you didn't want that to happen. It's the best option for me. She understood,
Yeah.
and I still went back to her after that, but I had to find a new doctor. And this new doctor I appreciated because she was like, "Oh, you did a hysterectomy." And she asked a whole set of questions completely different
Yeah.
about my sexual experience. I said, "Props for you," because I honestly have never had a
Thank
gynecologist ask me about my sex life. So, besides, "Are you
Yeah.
sexually active? Do you need an AIDS test?"
Yeah.
Or but outside
Yes.
of that, she was asking about my pleasure and was it painful? Was it this? And I said she said, "Oh, yeah, because I can write a prescription for certain things." And I'm like, "Well, I don't need that, but
And
that's amazing."
I was fully ready to do that because like I said, I was a little older, so I was already 40, so I was like, I'm already moving into the mode of we freeze? Oh, no. Did we freeze?
Yeah, but go ahead. I can
No?
click this. Yeah, you're good now.
Okay. So, yeah. Okay, I was already moving into that mode of being like, I might be going into menopause, all this kind of stuff. So that was the issue. And she was like, "You're good. Like, if you feel good." and everything's working the way you want it to, and you feel she also talked about my mental health. She's like, go to
Yeah.
therapy, it's still gonna be conversations. You're still gonna have to explain things to people when you're comfortable doing so. So all those things work together in my favor of being like, okay, I feel comfortable, and also just not having a period no more. Like,
See, I mean,
I can buy she and my doctor said,
I can't stress that enough how amazing it is. I'm not gonna bleed out on the middle of the night because I coughed. I'm not gonna ruin some pants at work. Like, I don't have to
yes.
plan a vacation around my period. It is fucking amazing.
Beautiful panties, wonderful underwear, like, all these things, and that was one thing my friends they had a, eviction party for me,
I
um,
love it.
and they bought me, like, gift certificates to go get new underwear and, like, things like that to, like, bring it back around town, and so I was like, "This is cool," and sometimes I still sit and be like, "Huh, I really don't have no period." This is just really wild, like, I really just
I
go
mean,
about my day out here.
it's
Go ahead.
amazing to have had a period for 27 years and to not. Y'all gonna call and schedule
It's
a
wonderful. I'm
hysterectomy on
like,
Monday.
yes. Listen, I'm like, it is amazing because I one, it just made me feel like people really we still don't give enough credit and enough gentleness to women when we're going through this. Like, I'm going to work and I am bleeding. Like,
Like,
we don't give.
I was literally wearing ultra tampons and an overnight pad so that I
Mhm.
would not have an accident at work. Changing
Yes.
an ultra tampon every 2 hours, that's pushing it because I could not take it. Um, and like you
I
said,
ended
now
up
we working, you're mothering, you're cooking, you're all this
yes.
stuff. No. And I wasn't having
Yeah,
pain. Some women have painful periods.
yes, I wasn't having the pain and all that, but just that long-term bleeding was just so annoying to me, and once we got to the point where they were like, "Yeah, we're gonna do the surgery," I mean, I was waking up in the middle of the night looking like a murder scene, and so that night, I was like, "Yeah, I don't care what can happen, this thing got to get out of me because
It
this
got
is not cool."
it gotta
So,
go.
I just was I was just, like, so excited to get it over with. My, healing was wonderful. I did exactly what the doctor told me to do. I tell people that all the time. I'm like, "Do what the doctor don't have a side mission. Do what they say do. When they say get up and walk 10 minutes a day, walk 10 minutes a day. Get your strength back up. Do the things you need to do." I made a checklist. I had a shopping list for all the things I needed,
Yes.
and my healing was awesome. Like, I stayed on top of my pain pills. Like, don't do
And
what they don't tell you.
I already shared, I'm a G. I took 1 pain pill when I came home. I don't like taking medicine. So, I took
I
1 pain.
I I have a high pain threshold, but one thing I do remember the doctor saying is that even if you don't feel pain, internally your body needs that help to heal. So if your nerves are too busy trying to numb the pain, it's not helping with the healing of the removal. And I was like, "Oh, that makes sense." And so I didn't stay on the heavy drugs for more than like 3 days because they don't be wanting to give you nothing else anyways. And I went
Yeah.
straight on the Tylenol and drinking my green juice and walking. The walking I feel like was what helped the most, was like
Yeah, and it would
making
wear
sure
me
you're getting.
out. And that was what I would
Mhm.
say is, like, I would just be tired. So I wasn't in pain, but I would get like, "Oh, I feel good," and I would look good, and then I would do one thing, and I'd be, like, slumped, like, "I gotta take
Yes.
a nap." So that would be my thing.
Yes.
Listen, when you're tired, take a nap. Do not push yourself if you do have one.
Mm.
The only time I will say I had pain post-surgery, and I know we're gonna wrap up soon, but, like, the only time I had the way they did my surgery was it was done with the robot, and they bagged it up, and they pulled it
Mhm.
out vaginally, and so my doctor
Mhm.
warned, because I had never birthed children, that that could be some uncomfort for me. Now for me, I'm
Yeah.
somebody who never had cramps. I had cramps twice in my whole life. That thing, I remember in recovery being like, "Okay, this is what he was talking about." That thing
Yeah.
throbbed at least till 7 o'clock that night. And then after that, I didn't
So
really. So to me, like that
we're
was
good.
the hardest thing was that for me. But
So my
beyond that,
doctor, she removed mine, with through the laparoscopically. So she didn't remove the uterus through the vagina. They cut it. It sounds so weird. They cut it up in pieces, pulled it out piece by piece. So what ended up happening was my wounds, where they pulled probably most of the organ out at, that took forever to heal. And I still have like a little indentation in my abdomen from that particular wound. I was like, that was the one they pulled everything out
thing
of.
okay.
So and it was so funny because two friends of mine one girl had an emergency hysterectomy during the same time I did. So we were healing together, but her healing was totally different than mine. And then another friend had one shortly after, and her healing was different than mine. So I always tell people, like, there's more women in your life who've had a hysterectomy than
Then
you
you
probably
know.
speak of, and ask them about their tips and tricks, how they feel. Because the one thing, I have a video on TikTok that it hits every like 3 months. Is because I still have my ovaries, I still have like like men, like what is it?
Your cycle. Yeah.
Yeah, I still have like PMS symptoms.
Yeah.
So, and somebody was like, "No one told me." I was like, "Yeah, if you keep them ovaries, that means
Yeah, they
there's."
don't tell you that. It fucks
Yeah,
you up. 'Cause, like, I
yes,
still would get like, the only period symptoms I would really get when my breasts would get really heavy and tender,
yes,
and I would get period diarrhea. So,
yeah,
it was confusing me because 'cause I'm like, "Why am I would have diarrhea randomly, and my breast would hurt," and I'm like, "Oh my god, is this cancer?" You know?
yes.
So, then I was like, "Dummy, they said you were still gonna go through the
Just
whole thing," and it's just
like,
weird to do all that without seeing evidence of it with a period.
yes, that I probably get a message once a month of somebody being like, "Thank you so much for making this video. I cannot believe," because I get the sensitive breast, the headaches, and
Mm.
irritability, and I'm like, "Well, what is wrong with me? Like, this shouldn't be no problem." And then without the show, you're like, "Oh,
Yeah,
I
without
forgot."
it, you just forget about it. And so now for
Yeah.
me, my period app, I still had it. It was tracking it for a while. And now I guess it's
Mhm.
like, bitch, you ain't logged no period. They just stopped. Like it used to be like 600 day or 400 days without
Yeah.
period, or your period's 400
Yes.
days late. So, but now I don't know when it comes, but I can still feel it. My breast will be the give it way. Now to
Yeah.
end this on a ratchet note,
Okay.
the one disclaimer though, and I was also fearful of putting this out here, is because I did not want men to know, because men are men and they don't want to fucking use condoms. And so once you say you've had
I
a
can't get pregnant.
hysterectomy, you can't get pregnant. It's immediate need to want to shoot up the club. And no, 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 no. That is not an
No, no, no.
invitation for you to just shoot up my club because I've had a hysterectomy.
Yes. Safety. I'm like, you do know safety first. Also, if you so hyped to shoot up the club, because I just said this, how do you just be shooting up the club with everyone? Like, I could still be, and I always tell men, like, I could still have something. The
They don't care.
vagina still gets things.
I literally just went and had I still go to the gynecologist,
Yes.
and I was laughing because I was like, "Was she in there swabbing?" But she was swabbing, and I had my
Hmm.
STD test and my blood work, so still have an STD
I'm like,
screening.
I'm like, sir, it's sexually transmitted infection. Infection. That means anything can get infected, and you could go and take it along. So, like, yeah, we still have to like educate the men on things, because that's just that one thing of people feel like they have access to your body that you did not give them. Oh yeah, I want to shoot the club up. I shoot the club up. Like, hold on
No,
a second.
that
No,
was
I don't
not
know if
on
I
the
want your boy
table,
better
sir.
in me.
Yeah,
Yes.
that was not on the table. But yes, that is
Yeah.
something that I've had to encounter. So, I love this. Thank you for being so open and candid.
I
We're gonna
not fine. I think black women, we should talk
suffer.
about it more. And we still have so many respectability politics about talking about things that affect us online. So I was like, yes, I will talk about it. I do not mind.
I love it. So we're gonna do the breakdown. I'm gonna say a word. You're gonna say first thing that comes to mind, phrase, sound, another word,
Okay.
whatever. Okay. The first one is always black women.
Wonderful. That's my word.
Hinge.
We are wonderful.
We are wonderful. Hinge.
Hellscape.
Because you said this, football.
Boring?
Tampons.
Expensive. Give us money, please.
They should be free. Therapy.
Important. Everybody needs it. Every single adult walking on this earth needs it. Important.
Just because I saw one of your threads, Beyonce.
The best performer of our living generation. Period.
And last one, orgasms.
Needed and necessary.
Period. Okay, Melissa. Tell everybody where they can find you on social media so they can follow your greatness.
Yeah. Yes, I am Fab Glance on everything. FabGlance. I talk about digital strategy. I make really funny videos about dating and life, and I have like some really good points of view. So definitely come and check me out. I would love to, meet everyone.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for stopping by the Boonie Breakdown. This is great.
Thank you.
All right, that is it for this week's episode. I want to thank our guest, Melissa. I hope you really were able to take something away from both of our personal experiences. I appreciated her openness, her honesty, and her willingness to share because it's so many women are suffering with these same issues, but no one's talking about it. And so I hope this episode was eye-opening, affirming. It made you want to inquire about your options if you're suffering, and just realize that there is a beautiful life on the other side of a hysterectomy. It is wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Okay. And again, be sure to follow Melissa on all of her platforms. It's linked in the show notes. All right. And if you enjoyed this episode, I encourage you to listen and subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, iHeartRadio, YouTube, or any apps that you listen to your favorites on. Don't forget to leave us 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. All right. You can follow us on social media. Share the episode with those you love, those you don't love, those you fucking hate. I don't make these reels for nothing. Okay. Have a dope ass week. Stay healthy, stay safe, stay sane, stay away from the pollen if you can. Thank you for listening. And remember, the ratchet in me always honors the ratchet in you. Namaste. Until next time.